Okay, part two. It is Oroville, California, October 3rd, 2000, or 4th, I don't know, 4th, I think maybe, 2019. It's getting dark. I think I got a little bit of time, so let me make this quick. So, I just talked about some overall issues, and this one is specifically about music and art. So, my music is an issue for me just because what happened, my old bands and stuff. So I want to put out this music, and now I have issues. I have people taking my music, stealing my music. I don't know why they would want to do that, but it seems like they did. So I'm going to talk about it. So, it goes deep. I have to write this on paper, but I want to go do this so that the story can fit with whatever I write down, so people know I'm not lying or whatever. So the story that I started playing music, not many people in my family played music, so it was kind of from scratch, and my friends played music and started playing guitar. Started getting lessons, or not getting lessons, but going to my friends' houses and my brother's friends and learning songs and learning how to tune the guitar and all this stuff like that. So that was one of the first things. And so I started writing songs around age 13, after listening to rock and roll and everything. I grew up on like a Motown and Mexican music, and it's kind of the Chicano family background. So grew up on oldies and stuff, and got into rock and roll, got into AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, then eventually Jimi Hendrix and Guns N' Roses, and got into grunge when grunge came out, and then Rage Against the Machine and System of a Down, and started getting into punk rock, and then I always liked classical, and always listened to classical, so that was something. And then loved acoustic music and anything that was like folk music from whatever country. Anything creative. But I started writing, started playing in bands. My brother was a singer for the first band, and I was always writing slow songs. So rock and roll was like something that wasn't really what I did as far as my songs that I wrote. But I like blues. So playing with the band, I had to write songs for the band, and so we started doing more rock and roll songs, and as far as originals. And then eventually in high school, or before high school, that band broke up for like the guitar player that I was with and the drummer, I think, had issues, and so we ended up breaking up. And even though we were doing well, and we just recorded like 5-song demo or something, and so we never finished mixing it, right? So this band was called Darker Image. It was like a guy named Matt Glaze, which his dad was a water person that did the water in Oroville, and then Matt Hauk, which was a guitar player. His dad was like a pesticide dude and killed bugs, and in Palermo, which was not too far where I was living, and I was this Mexican kid with playing music and drawing. And then my older brother Ruben, he was 4 years older than us, and he was a good singer, and he was like played harmonica. He was all into music. He's the one that got into rock and roll music first with his friends, and then but he never like learned how to play an instrument. So he was always creative. He just didn't discipline himself to play an instrument and sit around and write songs. And then the bass player, which was a friend of, I think, the two Matts, and he just started playing bass. They taught him how to play bass. He was a country guy. His dad was a farmer, I think. Cook guy. Just basically old school cowboy family. I guess, I don't know. I don't really know his family like that, but he was just quiet dude. So that was Tommy Sanders, and so we played, and we recorded, couldn't figure out a damn name. Ended up picking Darker Image off the comic book, Darker Image from Image Comics, and I think they thought it was funny because it was we're Mexican, so even if it was like unsaid, or I didn't think of it. I thought about the comic book, but they were like, I think it was a joke to them where it was like, because we were Mexican, they were like the Darker Image, I guess. But we ended up naming it DI, and played a lot of gigs, played a lot of bars, played school gigs, played like radio shows. So that band did well because the talent. Ruben was really talented as far as lead singer and everything, and I was doing good writing songs and keeping good rhythm, making it soulful. And then Matt was a good guitar player, playing bluesy licks, bluesy guitar, and Tommy was always cool, just sitting there playing the bass, and Glaze was a good drummer, technical drummer, not very he was technically good. Both of the two Matts were technically good, but he was more very technical, so which was good for a drummer. And but they had issue, and then blah, 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 let's see what else. So we recorded and then broke up. No, they kept the money. They were able to get the money for the gigs, basically do the business for the band. So that band actually did pretty good, decent, because the talent was there, and the both their parents were business guys, so they were able to learn how to do accounting, and they ended up keeping the money, whatever money was that's left, a couple $100 or whatever. But they did good for kids, and so the other Matt, the guitar player, he was like, "Yeah, let's make a new band." So me and him were buddies. So he ended up finding a couple other people, and that's where we created. So he found Dave Heineman, which was a drummer, and he was more like me, where he had a roughneck childhood, where but he was just the greatest musician in town, like kid. He was younger than us, like a year younger or something, but he was just like came from a family of musicians, and just that's all he did, So, and then we had the bass player was Jake Daly, and he was I think a year older than us, and he was tall, Irish hippie family, like Grateful Dead family, and that band continued for a long time. Like my brother got mad about it, but we just moved on, and he was kind of hurt. So I don't know if many years and years after, he was always would say things to me, but I was like, I'm writing my own songs, and then I want to sing my songs, and it was just, it's kind of just growing, like a dog that needs a lion that needs his own pack, so whatever. So that's kind of what happened as far as what we did. And then we made a second recording. We made a recording after a few years. That goes into some drama. And then at the end of that, okay, so this is a drama for that. I'm going to end it here, or end it with this story, because it's getting dark and I don't want to get locked in. So this is kind of, oh man, the story's too long. I'm going to have to do part 2. So, okay, so recently, or not recently, after that band broke up, which is a story in itself, I went and finished the recordings, mixed them up, and with my own money, with my own time, I went to art school, and I was able to the studio in Sacramento. I was Puss Tavern or whatever. I was like, that fucking band breakup was super fucked up, because it was very personal from me to those guys, which I love those guys. Fucking me and Jake have issues just because he was the instigator, but they try to continue without me and all this. They have their own story, but my story was that it was fucked up, and so those were my songs. So basically, I wrote the music and the lyrics for most of the songs. The 2 songs that were added were were from a demo that they gave me and of some music, and so I wrote some lyrics and then we recorded them. So those were Since the Day I Was Born and You Are the One. So those two, which when I wrote them, I didn't think we were gonna break up. I didn't know we were breaking up. So so that album, American Fiction Band, and that name came from collaboration. I never liked the name, but now that the name that we all kind of same thing. Native American stuff. It was their little joke, I guess, or a little reference to having Mexican guys singing, I guess. And so that was American Fiction. I went and finished the album because we never finished it, and then I was like, we had 2 sessions, and they were like, just wanted to record them and leave them for dead, and I was like, fuck that, dude. I want so instead of mixing I wanted to do vocal, so I had to fight with them and be like, nah, dude, fuck, I'm gonna we're gonna record all these songs, and I'm fucking taking this shit with me because these are my songs. I put a lot of time in for that band and sacrificed to get the band back together, and so I consider myself, when we got back together, I found all those dudes again and I put them, got everyone going, and so when it broke up, I was just like, I'm not leaving with nothing. So that's what happened. So I went on my own, finished my vocals and mixed it, and years later I showed some of the band members, and they were like, Matt, and he's like, oh, you got another guitar player? I was like, fuck that was me, we never really got to talk about it, but again, it was just underestimated and held down, and where like basically potential, not being in a band, but working with people and I think it goes for a lot of people, it's just egos and people get hurt and relationships, but that's how my feelings was. Like, I just didn't get to play to my potential or create to my potential, and so it was, I didn't hold any bad feelings for them to want to create other music. So that's this issue that we never talked about, because they were my friends and they're still my friends. I still love them. So it's not that, but it's just that creative project ended wrong, and we never talked about it. So that's kind of what happened with that, American Fiction. Then I went and recorded another band, or recorded on my own. That's when I started doing oh shit,